يفقهوا قولي. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك ولا تجعل فيها حظا لغيرك. وصل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
How's everyone today?
Alhamdulillah.
We start off with our hadith for today, bismillah ta'ala. This is hadith number 36. The heading of the book or the title of this hadith in the book, like I said, the hadith don't have titles, it's statements recorded from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or actions, or approvals, or descriptions, right? So they don't have titles, but in the commentaries on this compilation by Imam Nawawis rahimahullah ta'ala, the commentators have given titles. So the title of this is the merit of gathering to recite the Quran and for remembrance, for dhikr. So we read our hadith, Bismillah. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrates from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that he said, من نفس عن مؤمن كربة من كرب الدنيا نفس الله عنه كربة من كرب يوم القيامة. Whoever removes from a believing person a burden from the burdens of this dunya, or a distress from the distresses of this dunya, نفس الله عنه كربة من كرب يوم القيامة. Allah will remove from him a distress from the distresses of the day of Qiyamah. ومن يسر على معسر, follow me. وَمَنْ يَسَّرَ عَلَى مُعْسِرٍ. يَسَّرَ, second verb, to make ease. مُعْسِر, it's أَعْسَرَ from the fourth verb rooted to usr, which is difficulty as opposed to ease. So a mu'sir is a person in difficulty. So وَمَنْ يَسَّرَ عَلَى مُعْسِرٍ, whoever facilitates ease for a person in difficulty, يَسَّرَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. Allah will facilitate ease for him in the dunya and in the akhirah. وَمَنْ سَتَرَ مُسْلِمًا سَتَرَهُ اللَّهُ فِي الدُّنْيا وَالْآخِرَةِ. And whoever conceals a Muslim, سَتَرَهُ اللَّهُ, Allah will conceal him فِي الدُّنْيا وَالْآخِرَةِ, in this dunya and in the akhirah. What does it mean to conceal a Muslim? Conceal his faults. You don't make i'lan, you don't expose his flaws and his faults. Obviously, there is, there are huyud for this. There are restrictions to this little thing. So in general, when somebody does something wrong, you conceal their faults unless there is a need to reveal it. For example, if a person is going to get married, and he has a flaw that will potentially harm a marriage, then it's compulsory for you, in fact, to mention that to the appropriate person. Or if a person is going to do business with another person and you know them to be a con artist, for example, it becomes your responsibility to inform that person of that. But you don't simply reveal a person's flaws for the sake of it. Right? If you conceal people, you see somebody do something wrong. Advising them is a different matter. We're not talking about that now. But if you conceal their flaws, you keep it hidden from other people, then Allah will conceal your flaws in the dunya and in the akhirah. وَاللَّهُ فِي عَوْنِ الْعَبْدِ مَا كَانَ الْعَبْدُ فِي عَوْنِ أَخِيهِ. وَاللَّهُ فِي عَوْنِ الْعَبْدِ. And Allah is in عَوْنِ الْعَبْدِ, in the service of the slave. مَا كَانَ الْعَبْدُ, مَا كَانَ, as long as الْعَبْدُ, the slave is, في عون أخيه, in the service of his brother. I remember that last time I was telling you about the khidmah. So this is part of it. As long as you are in the service of another slave, and every creation is a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as long as you are in the service of the slave, then Allah is in the service of the slave. And even look at the wording there. Allah is in the service of the slave. Whose slave? His slave. Allah is in the service of his slave as long as the slave is in the service of his brother. So it's as if, in the wording that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam uses here is when he speaks about you in relation to Allah, then he uses the word abd. But when he speaks about your brother who's also an abd in relation to you, then he uses the word akhi. Right? Because you don't make isti'bad of the people. You don't treat people as if they are your slaves. وَمَنْ سَلَكَ طَرِيقًا يَلْتَمِسُ فِيهِ عِلْمًا سَهَّلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ بِهِ طَرِيقًا إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. And whomsoever, you know this hadith, مَنْ سَلَكَ طَرِيقًا, whoever traverses a path, يَلْتَمِسُ فِيهِ عِلْمًا, and in that path he is seeking knowledge, سَهَّلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ بِهِ, Allah will facilitate, or Allah will make easy, lahu, for him, bihi, on account of it, on account of his suluk, Allah will make easy for him, tariqan ila al-jannah, a path to the Jannah. Something important there. The word used in the hadith is salaka. Man salaka tariqan. So online, I don't know if you're making the suluk, but inshallah, may Allah include in it. But there's taking a few steps or whatever it is in pursuit of that knowledge is infinitely better than not having to do that. I'm just joking. May Allah include you in it. But I must every now and then remind that in person is a lot better. من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة. And okay, inshallah, from that hadith, I can mention a number of aspects because the world is, trending towards this online learning and stuff. But a number of aspects that are lost out in the pursuit of knowledge by doing it online is that you lose out on the space. As we're going to find in the next part of the hadith, the space is important. We gathered in the house of Allah. That has its own spiritual benefit. The suhbah in doing it in person. The teacher, you might just get the information from the teacher, but oftentimes the person, they experience a hal of spirituality on account of perhaps what they experienced during that class. And if you're in their vicinity, this isn't a spiritual realm. YouTube, Zoom can't explain it. You might be deprived of that if you're not there, but if you're in the vicinity, then perhaps that extends to you. And how often is it that, the companions even mentioned to us instances where they were with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and one person cried, and that gave them all a spiritual high, a heightened state of spirituality. So you lose out on that space, you lose out on that hal, and then you lose out on the gaze of nusah that the teacher as well as the other students can share with you. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our in-person classes much fuller than what they are. Amen. So من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة. The next part of the hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, وَمَا اجْتَمَعَ قَوْمٌ فِي بَيْتٍ مِنْ بُيُوتِ اللَّهِ. This ma is nafiya. مَا اجْتَمَعَ قَوْمٌ. No people, قوم, or مَا اجْتَمَعَ قَوْمٌ. A people does not gather. في بيت من بيوت الله. In a house from the houses of Allah. Referring to the masajid. يتلون كتاب الله. Either reciting the book of Allah. ويتدارسونه فيما بينهم. And studying it between themselves, studying it amongst themselves. يتدارس from dars. Tadarus, this is on the 6th verb. There's a connotation of mutuality. Mutually studying it amongst themselves. إلا نزلت عليهم السكينة. Except that نزلت عليهم السكينة. Tranquility descends upon them. وغشيتهم الرحمة. And mercy enshrouds them. وذكرهم الله في من عنده. And Allah mentions them في من, amongst those who are عنده, by him. Now again, we don't attribute anything special to Allah, but it refers to the angels, right? The inhabitants of the Sama. I don't see that in my. It's not mentioned here, but it does come in other narrations of the same hadith. وحفتهم الملائكة. وحفتهم الملائكة. The angels encompass them. The angels encompass them. So, what does the last part of the hadith is mentioning another point, but what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in this point here? No group of people gather in the house, gather in a masjid, a house from the house of Allah. Either simply reading the book of Allah, right? So they gather reading the book of Allah. You might find people nowadays having a whole issue with people gathering to do something. No. The hadith says they don't gather in the house of Allah, reciting the book of Allah. Or studying it amongst themselves. Right? Hopefully we're doing both of them. Except that a number of things happen. Ma plus illa. What is that to? Negation plus illa, followed by illa, it makes ifadat al-hasr. It means you can translate it as only. Or they do not do this except that something happens. What happens? A number of things. نزلت عليهم السكينة. Sakina descends upon them. What's sakina? Tranquility. So what's its opposite? Being in conflict, being agitated. Those are opposites of sakina. And why I'm highlighting that is because if, sometimes I just say, okay, tranquility descends upon them, you might think, okay, I'm going to get tired. No. Right? People are really beset with those problems, agitation, maybe because of past traumas they think they have ADHD maybe, or, we're not going to have a medical discussion on that, but people, they're beset with agitation, their hearts are always busy, their minds are always busy, they can never find peace. So, Rasul is telling you how to do it. Go into a house of the houses of Allah, recite the book of Allah, or study his book. You get that sakina. So the nuzul of sakina again, nazarat alayhim sakina, indicates that the sakina comes from a higher place. Nuzul literally means to go from a high place to a low place. Right? When something comes from Allah, we don't understand it going from a high place to a low place because we don't attribute space to Allah. But in that indication, it's telling you, it's as if the sakina, it's a divine gift. وَغَشِيَتْهُمُ الرَّحْمَةِ, mercy enshrouds them. وَحَفَّتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ, the angels become the companions, the angels throng around them. وَذَكَرُهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَنْ عِنْدَهُ, and Allah mentions them to those who are near to him. Right? They get a special mention by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all of those benefits of studying his book. Now, I don't know how that works in the virtual realm, but may Allah extend the benefit to all. However, I think that part, it's a bit of a stretch when the hadith says, مَجْتَمَعَ قَوْمٌ فِي بَيْتٍ مِنْ بُيُوتِ اللَّهِ. Yes, we can say in some virtual sense, you're party to the gathering. But I don't know if I'm hammering this point or what. Just now, ولا خليه شات you know, it's important. ما اجتمع قوم في بيت من بيوت الله ومن أبطأ به عمله لم يسرع به نسبه. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, وَمَنْ أَبْطَأَ بِهِ عَمَلُهُ, whomsoever his actions slow him down, whoever is slowed down by his own actions, meaning in his journey to Allah, he is held back by his own bad actions. لَمْ يُسْرِعَ بِهِ نَسَبُهُ, his lineage will not make him go faster. Asra means to make somebody go faster. لَمْ يُسْرِعَ بِهِ نَسَبُهُ, his lineage will not make him speed up. So what's Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam telling us over there? It's not about who you are. It's about what you do. Every person is responsible for their own actions, and they will be judged according to their own actions. Every person will be judged according to their own actions. You can be the son of a big alim, you can be the whatever, son of a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it doesn't matter. Yes, maybe it means you get the dua and all of those things, but that doesn't count for much if your actions don't accord with it. If your actions don't accord with, their du'as for you and etc. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us people who strive for actions. This does not mean that a relationship with people or attachment to people has no benefit, right? Because other hadith clarify that for us. The special nature of a dua, of a parent for their child and a child for their parent. So certainly that benefits. It certainly benefits. If you have a pious person making dua for you, of course it benefits you. But that's not enough. That's not enough. Your actions have to accord with all of those things. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and make us people who, love these ahadith. And, the first part of the hadith is very practical. Now when you get to the latter part, you forget the first part. No, the first part of the hadith is very important. To remove people's distress, facilitate ease for people, help people. If you do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be doing the same for you. Don't harm people, in simply speaking about their flaws. If you can't even harm somebody by speaking about their flaw, does it even make sense that you can harm them by doing something wrong to them? So the hadith is holistic in telling you that interact with people in a beautiful way. Allah will reciprocate in kind, in a manner that's infinitely better. Because any benefit in the akhirah is infinitely better than a benefit in the dunya. So don't forget about this. First speaks about that interactions with people. It speaks about that interactions with people on various levels, in benefiting them and in not harming them. And then the hadith changes its focus and speaks about attaining ilm, and specifically attaining ilm about the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a good space. In a good space, and then Allah mentions the benefits that will come about on account of that. And what does Allah mention as the benefits? You might think the benefits of attaining ilm is I become intelligent. But the hadith doesn't mention that. That's obvious. What the hadith does mention is a number of spiritual benefits. Those are intangible. You can't see the sakina. You can't see the rahmah. You can't see the pathway to Jannah being facilitated like in real time. You might see it in retrospect. But you can't see it in real time. All of these are spiritual benefits to attaining that ilm and studying the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So our education, our tarbiyah, our pedagogy is never one-dimensional, nor is it one-dimensional in terms of focused on the body. It's not two-dimensional, focused on the mind and body. It is multi-dimensional. It focuses on you holistically. Focus on your ruh, focus on your qalb, focus on your nafs, focus on your aql, focuses on your body, focus on all aspects of it. Right? And here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us how we get some of those fawaid or masalih ruhaniyah, their spiritual benefits through the very physical process of an intellectual process of attaining ilm. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us. Ameen ya Rabb. Okay, now to move on.